Colorado had the fifth highest cover one usage in college football last year, and it's to no surprise because they had athletes all over the field, primarily one being Travis Hunter, who was a star two-way player. We're not going to break down Travis Hunter, though. We're going to look at his corner counterpart in McKinney, who typically played on the left side, and this is a team that like to press. They like to get up into the receivers, but that's not always the case. Those hard jams and those kind of camp videos that we see, that's not really realistic to how that translates into the game. We're going to look at a soft press technique by DJ McKinney and the Colorado Buffaloes. A couple of things we want to look at here before we get going. We want to look at this stance. So really nice stance. You can see kind of that nice V right there. The only thing that I would say, this is a trend that I'm seeing in a lot of DBs, is getting these hands really low, but they're close. Elbows are almost to the knee. I almost would prefer the elbow a little bit further back. I actually like that the butt, if you're going to be one of these where you're going to have your hands down, a lot of times they kind of flex that hand. You can see how he's kind of got his hand flexed here. That butt of the wrist or the butt of your hand right there, I really like it around the knee level. And the reason why I like it around the knee level is you can see this in the first step. What you have a tendency when your arms are low like that is you're going to bring them back. And instead of having that nice posture, you're going to end up bringing them back and out. It actually brings him lower in his stance, which is not necessarily a terrible thing. It's really being nitpicky. But one of those things when you talk to different DB coaches, everybody has a different style. Some like to have kind of that prayer hands, which I've seen that kind of phased out, which I'm glad that's kind of phased out. Other people want, I like a fingertip to the knee, fingertip to the like the side of your knee. Here you have the butt of the wrist, the hand is right here, kind of mid-shin. I think it's a little bit too low, but it does keep your DB low. And you can see right here, he stays in a really nice tuck and he's able to kind of keep his hands down. So this is classic mirror motor. This is some old school like LSU stuff that you used to see back in the day. So this is a technique. Deion Sanders works here. I'm going to assume, and I'm going to default to the master right there, but just going over when the initial stance, I really like everything about it, just being nitpicky about the hands. Watch how he's got his feet together. They are connected to his armpit. He's got a slight, you can barely tell just because of the angle, but he's got a slight knock knee, and that's completely fine as a DB. You want to be a little bit knock kneed because you want all that pressure on the inside of your foot. You don't want it on the outside of your foot, and you don't want to then bring this foot out followed by bringing this foot out. And then the next thing you know, you're in a prop. And we don't ever want a prop as a DB because that's how you get ran by. So let's go through this again from the beginning. And let's look at it. The first step, a lot of times, a lot of DB coaches will call this a false step. I actually don't think this is a false step. The more that you watch high-level DBs, this is essentially the same thing as a peer step, or what I call just a proactive step. The key here in press is you want to press to the back foot. So wherever the back foot is, that's where I want a peer step that way. So you're going to see he's actually going to bring that foot vertical a little bit. I actually think it helps you get started for a lot of DBs. You don't want a large step, but a nice little tiny step here is not going to hurt you. As you can see, he's going to step to the back foot, and then he's going to rock back outside. He's going to keep right in front. Now, anytime you get any kind of a walkout by a receiver, that's going to be a slant or a fade. So you can see him here. He's moving right into the inside. The moment that he kind of breaks that glass in between him, you can see right here that that glass is broken. He was about 2 yards away. Now he's about a yard and a half, right? So once that breaks that glass, you can see that offhand jam hand is going to come because he's now moved to inside. So he's inside shade. Okay, peer steps outside. He's now moving inside shade. He's going to bring that right hand. Now, the one thing that you want to do is just go ahead and let it open you up. So the moment that you do that, bring this back elbow. No need to do the double hand jam. It kind of gets you offset. And actually what it does here is it pushes him away from the receiver, which is what we don't want. But this, again, is really nice mirror motor. He's going to punch with that inside hand. And what I like about it is even though he stabs with the left hand, he doesn't keep it there. Right? So we're not leaning on the receiver right here. He stabs it and goes. So if we look at this again, stab, stab, release, get in. You can see now that he's got his eyes down. Now, what we want to do here is we want to press the hip of the receiver. We don't want to turn this into a track meet. One of the things, if you watch McKinney in particular, one of the things that he kind of has a bad habit is that he doesn't necessarily get into the body of the receiver right here. So what we want right here is we want to get into the body of the receiver. Now, what I really like here is as that receiver posts up on him, see how he's got his hand out. He's going to bring that hand over top and slap down, but we want to be violent with that slap down. We want to open that receiver up, and then we want to get into the body. So one of the things here, so we don't want to get a penalty. When you're playing man coverage, that's when you get penalties and you get hit in the back of the head with the ball, right? You're getting PBUs and penalties. You're not necessarily getting picks because you don't have time. You're reacting off the receiver. So once he identifies that the receiver's coming back, watch how he's going to swipe that hand out. And that's a really nice right there. And why I say be violent on that swipe down, notice how he's not super violent on that swipe down. What you want to do is chop through that hand and punch that hand out. So as I'm bringing my hand down, I want to also go out with it. So right here, you want to bring it down and then you want to swipe out. And what that does is it opens the body of the receiver. It also gets his hand. If he's going to have to make a catch, he's going to have to cross his body, making a spectacular catch one-handed. If he does that, then kudos to that kid. He just made a really nice play. What you don't want here is if you're going to get chest to chest, get chest to chest. Play him through it and then peek your head back instead of kind of relying on the receiver to tell you where the ball is. Now, he still does a very nice job and it's good technique, but there's so many teachable moments within this. This is a really good corner. They really relied on him, especially playing again opposite Travis Hunter. The Colorado had a really good defense this year. A lot of it had to do with kind of this suffocating defense. So we have really nice motor. Notice how his eyes are down. Once he feels him close, he's going to stab with that inside hand to protect, open his hips. He gets that stab with the left and releases. We get into a little bit of a track meet. We want to close into this hip here, right? So that we can play, because here's the modern game now, unless you clearly are beat. So unless the receiver has stacked you, that quarterback's throwing a back shoulder fade, right? Because if I throw a back shoulder fade, I'm more likely to have you overrun it right here, or I'm going to get a PI. And look, let's be honest. As a defensive back coach, you have to coach penalties. You have to coach ways of not getting penalties. That should be within your teaching every single week. So one of these things here is if I can press into this low hip and I can force this ball over, notice how I have help from the post safety over top. I want that ball to moon over top of me, allowing that safety to come into it. That way also, when I'm underneath of it and I'm in that hip, it's harder for him to work through me. I can see him working, and now I can punch through that shoulder. Now, he does a good job of slapping and then punching the ball out. He actually has his hand right there in between the receivers, and he's violent with outside, but it would be nice to get that chop and out. So just from the beginning, love this. This is a really nice mirror motor. We get the offhand jam. Even though we get a two-hand jam, we're quick off of it. We have a nice look at his eyes. Eyes are down and at the receiver. He's going to slap that receiver's arm, and he's going to make it a really impossible catch, putting his hand in between those two hands. A good rep here by McKinney, and somebody to look for next year for Colorado.